It's actually relatively simple. Basically, what it does is it backs up your conf folder, which is where all your tokens are sitting. Backs up it doesn't back up the log folder, I don't think. The other thing it does is take a dump from the database, saves it to a file, so that same dump can be done in reverse and imported back into the database on the restore process. So it doesn't back up the cache. So if there's files in cache that haven't been uploaded, then they also won't be in the database. So uh, it's it's best to have a backup from after any backup sets have been done. But yeah, we don't actually back up any files in the cache because then your backups could end up quite large. So we back up database configuration and everything you need to get your database and file metadata back.
We have some configuration options here, so we can like take a backup every either between 30 minutes or 2 hours. What I suspect would be more interesting to a lot of you is the data threshold.
Mhm.
So either from like 1 GB up to like any number, you can have it. So yeah, so this would naturally kind of do the thing that Jay was talking about, where after you do a lot of uploading, you would probably want to take a backup or a snapshot right after that's done. So this would, if you set this lower, to even something like 2 gigs, then it would more closely resemble that. And then, yeah, we don't just keep an endless supply of backups. You can set so it only keeps the last 3 or something, just to keep things a bit leaner and lighter. But what I have on screen here, so the actual backup what it ends up as is a zip file with just a Unix timestamp. Um, I'm assuming that's what that is.
Yep.
Uh, So if what you can do later is if you can move one of these zips. So I took a zip from my relayer.masterhw.cloud, or I took a backup of that relayer, and I brought it over to this one that I just set up. So uh, this backup right here, I put the zip in its backup folder, and it sees it. And what it almost does, and what it's going to do tomorrow when you try this with the latest relayer version, is when you hit restore on that backup, it's just going to take the form of that other relayer, and it will uh, essentially emulate whatever configuration and whatever the IAM settings. It'll completely take the shape of whatever that other relayer was, just minus anything that might have been in the cache. Because if we were to include the cache in these zips, then these zips would go from being less than a megabyte to potentially like tens of gigs or something. So that's the what's happening there. Now, the other really interesting thing that you can do, so these are going right now to just the like backup folder within the relayer directory. What you could do, uh, and maybe Jay could help us out a little bit with exploring what our options are, but you could mount this directory to be almost anything. So could you actually do that right in the Docker compose YML?
Yeah,
Or
that's right. Yep. So
okay,
just like how you had that additional line in there that was commented out for the meta folder, you can also do any of these other subfolders. You can put them wherever you like. So um, yeah. So
right,
yeah, basically, if you put slash relayer slash backup on the right hand side, then on the left hand side you could put it anywhere. So an NFS share or anything that's available to the host machine, you could store your backups there. So if you have some additional storage mounted, um, maybe network storage, you can save your backups straight to there. That's actually not limited just to the backups. You can also put your logs elsewhere. If you really wanted to, you could put your comp elsewhere. So any of those subfolders under the main relay folder can be split out into other locations that are mounted on your host.
meta kind of lines up there. We see that one explicitly mentioned in the log, and we can see it here. But yeah, any of the log, the data, conf, or backup can all be explicitly named and pointed to a different disk. And in fact, you might actually want to do that because while taking backups is great, at the end of the day, if all the backups are also sitting on the same disk, then that puts that disk as kind of a failure point. So uh, you definitely might want to put that on a separate disk, kind of like how you have your relayer on one disk, you can have your cache on one disk, you can have your backups on another, or yeah, using something like rclone, or some other SAN option like NFS or something, then you could have that mounted as a local disk or like a local file system point, but it's really going off to another computer, or it's going off over like a cloud service to maybe even another relayer or something. These are all possible.
So how do I back it up? Are you saying I have to keep pulling it off to like, external drives, and I have to keep pulling, versions off onto thumb drives and things like that in order to be? Yes, that's exactly what we're saying. You are going to have to build a robust strategy to back up and keep your databases safe. And so the first thing is, if it's mom and pops or small, not very busy networks, you're going to need to just keep that frequency going pretty good, and you're going to have to offload that backup architecture onto other places. So you may upload it to your own Dropbox or iCloud or other kinds of not connected networks, so you have a secondary copy, or offload to removable drives, or to tape, or to some other medium. As you start to get more busy on the network and you start to get more activity, then you're going to need to really quickly start learning how the process goes to actually mirror up that Postgres database. So you're going to need to start looking at various kinds of clustering options. And so, you can do that yourself, or you can start working with a cluster service like AWS has, or other, Oracle, or these other big cloud compute companies have the ability to cluster off your Postgres databases. And you're going to want to know how to do that. And I suspect that as time goes by, we will have some very organized classes in our next sort of curriculums for how to do that.